Final Fantasy, the main story of it, and
Final Fantasy 15.
That's right, the most modern Final Fantasy. If I say Final Fantasy, I either mean number one or the most recent one. And
Yes.
man, I really fell in love with the first half of that game. The first 2/3 of that game were done so well. The line-to-line writing of the dialogue was really intelligent. I heard everybody.
I love the early boy band feel. Like when you're in
Yeah.
that. I only got to play chapter 6 or 8, so I was still I was leaning off that first like initial love of it. But I like the way it differs from other Final Fantasy games, especially in that first half. You feel like a boy band on a road trip.
Yeah, and I heard all that stuff, and I thought, oh, whoop-de-doo, that's not going to matter. But the great part about it is that they just really nailed that, and it's because the writing feels genuinely pretty real and super effective. And then it's really a miracle this game worked out the way it did, because it was a 10-year-long development that changed directors just in the last few years when they said, look, we got to cancel this thing. And
Wasn't it originally 13-2 or 13?
It was going to be Final Fantasy 13 Versus 13. It was going to be set in that universe. They had already invested in the engine.
It's a different thing.
Yeah, and then they changed the Hinji characters a lot. It would have been terrible. And then Tabata came in, and man, did he do a wonderful job with it. You start to see some of the cracks later on where they really rush you down and they funnel you down. It really feels like they ran out of time. However, there are so many great ideas, like narrative ideas in this, and the plot later on that I won't spoil, that really flesh out the villain in an interesting way, and the protagonist, his big decision and what he's leading up to. But the problem is that they kind of mention it just once, and then in passing with some of these scenes that feels like when you watch a novel that's been brought to the big screen in a movie, and you go, oh, they didn't really explore enough of that character because they just didn't give them enough scenes. And that's what kind of happens here. You'll have one scene with a character, a big exposition dump, and then it's never really mentioned again. And I found that the ending, they seemed to, with me, I didn't really connect with what was actually going on. Then when I went back and talked with people that were, on our stream that knew, and I had to read some wikis on it and stuff, I realized, okay, well, that is what I had thought was right. But they did such a poor job of reiterating that. But so I guess my main point is, number one, it's a miracle they actually managed to pull that off. I can't believe they did so well. I actually forgot that it had a poor development up until a big moment where you meet one of the big summons.
Well, Square, they have the balls to do that. You remember Final Fantasy 14, the online thing came out, and everyone was like, hey, this is hot garbage. And they went, okay, we're taking it offline, and we're going to completely redo it. Like
That's right, yep.
They'll do, and it's disappointing to hear that towards the end I expected this was going to happen, that they doubled down on more of that big world stuff, because that's one of my biggest gripes with Final Fantasy is I often feel like it's group of kids versus large corporation, or very like just not abstract but large ideas with a lot of like proper nouns, and like this woman is going to give you a book of a key and you have no clue if she's actually like a cat or something. You like weird stuff.
Yeah. And
so Final Fantasy 15 starts off as just like this boy band with very personable characters driving through a desert in their nice car, and you're running out and killing them. It feels like a simplistic story, and it has larger implications because of Prince Noctis. But as they started to get into the more, as soon as you started to see like industrial buildings and fighting things like mechs, I was like, I don't.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. There were a lot of the last part of it. I just thought that's flashy, but I don't really care. I just don't really.
Like, I care more about the Chocobo Farm. Yes. Weird industrial place that I can't even remember why I was there, but I think I fought a lady character.
You did.
I don't know who that is. I feel like she was important to the story.
Well, a lot of those
the
scenes
Chocobo Farm
got left
way
behind.
cooler.
They just they couldn't. I mean, because of the level of polish that they want to do with that, they just couldn't. So it was. That's all I really wanted to say about 15. It's still worth. If you haven't played it yet, it's still totally worth playing. I mean, if you can grab it on sale, I would. Although, if you can get the Windows Edition now, it's probably worth the full price. And the nice thing is, once you're done with the main story, they make it so easy to go back and enter in any of the chapters you want to replay. And also, there are extra little fetch quests, and you can get right back into that open world stuff and all the character building and just hanging out with your bros and running around doing quests. Because that's what I wanted to go back the whole time. And although on paper you think, oh, okay, well, they give you this open world that's bright and it's fun and you have your characters, and all of a sudden the last part funneling you towards the boss is dark and claustrophobic. That works, but they just skipped on a few story beats.
And they kind of show that in the beginning. Am I going crazy, or am I hearing Zelda music?
You're hearing Zelda music.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that.
All right.
I'm deep Zelda fan, so like sometimes I just have audio hallucinations. But to Matt's point, even if you don't like Final Fantasy and turn-based stuff, I not a huge turn-based RPG fan. I like them, but Final Fantasy isn't really my game. I still really enjoyed what I played of 15. I just kind of bounced off it because there was a lot of stuff coming out around the release of that game, and they said they were going to make some improvements. So even if you find yourself like a fan of Kingdom Hearts or more action RPGs, Final Fantasy 15 is still worth a go. And you could probably, like Matt said, get the like standard edition for $20 or $30.
Yeah, so, but here's the deal with that is the
other editions are way better, or like almost essential, right?
You're gonna want the Royal Edition or the Royal Pack because it adds a lot of fun boss battles and some missing content. The season passes explain a few things to do with your characters. Sometimes your bros just go missing, they come back and they tell you, and you go, man, I wish I got to see some of that. Like this, the thing is,
like, BRB, I'll be back, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, okay, no, okay.
And then they'll have this kind of. There's this one moment where the main character and another one have this kind of deep discussion, like, is it really okay that this happened? And he's like, yeah, of course. And you go, I have no context to this. You're having an emotional discussion about something. I don't know. Is it okay? I don't know. I guess that's just something you got. It's like an inside joke or something they have.
The one thing that I remember about Final Fantasy 15 when it comes to dialogue and stuff like that is a conversation that Noctis and Prompto have sitting on top of a trailer about Prompto and why he takes pictures. And like, maybe that's why I connected with Final Fantasy 15 so much, is because it really felt like
scene. That was great.
I don't know if that was just something, because you can talk to your buddies when you like, rest at camp for the night, which is something you do normally. So I don't know if that was just like a random throwaway scene or like a story thing, but like that's the stuff I like about this game. And it felt really cool. Plus the combat worked out.